On today's show, it's a topic that's often discussed around the National Hockey League. Should your two stars play on the same line or help different units?
And we get into lots of other topics with a SensCentral Citizen. Today, we welcome on Ryan Madden.
It's been a long time coming. SensCentral Citizens are back and more on today's Locked On Sens.
I'm Jake Sanderson.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. That's comedy, theater, sports. Locked On NHL is your promo code. Download the Game Time app. Terms do apply. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at SensCentral on Twitter. You can find us wherever you get podcasts, including on YouTube, where we say hello and let you know that a like, comment, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Today is Thursday, July 11th, and Pilsy, this topic stemmed from a conversation that you and I had off air. Should Tim Stützle and Brady Tkachuk start training camp on the same line, or should you separate them?
Well, it's an interesting topic for sure, Ross, and you took a look at the minutes played for Brady with and without Timmy. You got those in front of you right now. You want to rattle those out for context?
Well, it's pretty similar, 5-on-5. Obviously, they play a ton on the power play together, but over the last 3 seasons, Tim Stützle and Brady Tkachuk have played 1,477 minutes together and 1,744 minutes apart. So you're looking at about a 53-47% split.
So, Ross, I'll start off. I'm going to argue on the side that they should stay on the same line. And the reason for that is I love the idea of a line of Brady Tkachuk on the left, Tim Stützle down the middle, and then Claude Giroux down the right. For me, that line just works so well. You got Brady, you got your meat and potatoes grinder guy that's going to get pucks on net. He's going to battle out in front. You've got Timmy, the dual threat, talented player that's going to be able to create space for guys like Brady and Claude Giroux. And then you got Claude Giroux, the vet that's going to keep things responsible, but also is still going to be able to make plays to set up guys like Timmy and Brady. So I just think the way that line works, honestly, Ross, my argument is mostly just the fact that I love the way that line looks, and then you can figure out the rest. I don't think you should try to put the lines in a blender just to try to even out all of the lines. I think with the Ottawa Senators, it's okay to stack that top line, especially, Ross, if they have success. And I don't know, maybe it's just the eye test, but I feel like when those three were together, they were having a lot of success.
They were, and this year they had a 53% expected goals percentage in just under 160 minutes on the ice together. So it wasn't a line that was used often under Jacques Martin. What was used often was another line that had Brady Tkachuk on it that had very good both underlying and offensive numbers. I wouldn't mind seeing. Now, there's going to be a trickle-down effect that I don't know if this works with everybody healthy, because how are you going to get Josh Norris, his touches? But man, that line of Shane Pinto, Brady Tkachuk, and Drake Batherson last year really got me fired up for stretches. I felt like Shane Pinto was the perfect defensive conscious that allowed Drake to be creative and Brady to do his thing. So if they could somehow find a way to get those three together, I think you could then have Timmy with Giroux. I like that combo. Yep. Timmy will continue to get better in the faceoff dot. But if we're having a debate on who Tim Stützle's most important line mate is for next season, I would argue it's Claude Giroux, not Brady Tkachuk.
No, and that's fair. I like having one of either Brady or Giroux with Timmy, though, just to help out with the faceoffs. But then that's where, Ross, I could see the argument for splitting them up, because if you don't split them up, then Josh Norris isn't going to have a faceoff guy on his wing. Now, one thing I was tinkering with is maybe you put Michael Amadio up there. Amadio has taken a decent amount of draws with the Vegas Golden Knights. I think in the last 2 years, he took around 200 faceoffs with a 50% success rate. So he's a guy that you could put on that second wing. Like maybe you're looking at Amadio, Norris, Batherson as your second line. And then that evens things out a little bit more on that third line. You got Greg, Pinto, and Perron. So you got a nice top 9 there. But I just think I want to see the Sens put their best foot forward, stack that top line. And then the way this team is designed, Steve Staios has kind of brought in more flexible, good players rather than just star power that you hope works. So I think you can put that star power on the top line, and then the rest of the lineup can shake out the way it has to.
And looking at Travis Green, we have no preconception of what he's thinking when it comes to lines. All we can do is look back at what Jacques Martin did. And in only 41 games, Shane Pinto actually played almost double the amount of minutes with Brady Tkachuk than Tim Stützle did. So it wasn't a combo that Jacques Martin liked for whatever reason. Now, it was an off year for Tim Stützle. You heard Dean Brown on this show yesterday talking about how one power play goal just isn't going to happen. But at 5-on-5, there were just stretches where things weren't working out. The frustration mounted. We wanted to get back to more of those highlight reel plays and the camaraderie and all of that, the bromance, if you will, that Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle had over the course of Timmy's first 2 years in the league. And it just feels like, and it's what happens when losses pile up. It can't be as fun coming to the rink and you look around the room at all the guys who have been there as long as you. And I mean, it's hard to get out of that, which is why you have guys coming in like David Perron and other veterans, Nick Jensen, to kind of settle the dressing room down a little bit. So I hope everyone goes in and it's more of a fan topic. Obviously, these guys just want to go in, do their job and play their best. But I think you give yourself a little bit more depth up front if you have them on different lines. And it then gives the potential. And I know I'm kind of utilizing Pinto all over the lineup, and Norris is the question mark. But if you could then, if you want to put Norris with Tkachuk, they obviously have a long history playing together as well. Maybe you reunite that kid line with Batherson, Norris, and Tkachuk. Then all of a sudden, that Pinto-Greg combination on a third line with Perron, now you're creating depth throughout your entire lineup, because that would then leave a top line with Giroux and Stützle, and insert left wing there. It's probably Amadio, but at that point, you might look to upgrade that whoever else is on Timmy's line, because you need him firing. So there's a lot that Travis Green has to look into with what he decides, but it's got to be a fun exercise for him this summer, jotting down on the back of a napkin all the different ways that you can either go top heavy or have a trickle down effect that you could beat a team with your third line on any given night.
Well, Ross, I'm glad you brought that up, because that kind of perfectly puts my closing argument on this. Remember last year, you mentioned it, that line of Brady, Pinto, and Batherson, that was a nice line. But then what did that do to your second line, let's call it? Timmy, Giroux, and insert player that doesn't work on the left wing in the top 6 here. Parker Kelly played time there. Matthew Joseph played time there. It just didn't work. So why would you put yourself in a position where, and you mentioned it, you like the combo of Timmy and Giroux. Why would you put yourself in a position where arguably the guy that is going to drive this team to success, Tim Stützle, you need him to have a bounce back year? Why would you put them in a position, Timmy and Giroux, to not succeed? And I'm not saying they can't succeed with Amadio or Perron or someone else on that left wing, but I feel like they can succeed when it's Brady, Timmy, and Giroux. And those are the 3 guys that you need to perform at top levels if this team's going to have success putting the puck in the back of the net, Ross. So for me, don't mess around with trying to even out the lines. Just your 3 best players, put them in best positions to succeed, and then go from there. So that's, I rest my case on that argument, because we saw how much that affected Tim Stützle's season when they didn't have that proper left winger. Now, mind you, the wrist injury was probably a big part of why Tim Stützle didn't have success, and only getting 1 power play goal is an issue as well. But to kind of support him on even strength, I think you give him the captain.
Okay. And therefore, your top line, day one of camp, is Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk, and Claude Giroux.
Correct.
That's your top line? Okay.
Yeah, there's
So
certainly no other line that would be a number one line over them.
no, but look, even if you just make one flip, and look, you said either Tkachuk or Giroux, like what if you throw Bath? I just think Batherson's poised for a huge year. I really do.
Yeah,
I think
he
you need
had
to
a
put
big
him.
year last year.
Yeah, I'm expecting an even bigger year for Drake Batherson. So he's a guy who I might want to get with Timmy just for the creative aspect, and then
Yeah, I'm okay
there's a
with
lot of
that.
options. There's a lot of
Yeah.
options. But look, they didn't play a lot last year together, and I think that you do need to help Timmy out a bit more. One thing that also happened last year, Pilsy, is that the Senators, call it injuries, call it inconsistencies, but they could not stick with the lineup. The Senators' most common trio was Stützle, Giroux, and Joseph. 305 minutes together at 5-on-5. Dude, the most in the league, 863 minutes. 40 different combinations of forwards had more ice time than the Sens top line in terms of most common. So you just can't build as much rapport, and there's no surprise that the lines that were together the longest had the most success. Sure, part of it is that you don't break up a line when they're having success, but another part of it is being able to feel out the chemistry. Not all these lines have, very high impact players in all three spots, but the way that they work, and that's where it's like it's more about finding the right combination than putting your two stars together. And that's where I'll rest my case. But clearly the Citizens are on your side. They want to see the top line stack. The poll is still active on Twitter. 73% of the over 150 immediate votes, but again, that's still live. Go have your say. Should Stützle and Tkachuk play on the same line to start camp? 73% say yes. And our citizen who's coming up already chimed in. Ryan says anything other than the same line is pure craziness. We'll have your say in the comments as well on YouTube. All right, Pilsy, SensCentral Citizen on the other side, and everybody is eagerly awaiting your final thoughts. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, that's what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle, and you can even level it up so you can get peak performance. They got superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. So whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not burning cash. With all the parts you need, but at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that W. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Check it out today, guys. eBay Motors.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the Glebe Central Pub. Welcome back to the Glebe Central Pub, your neighborhood pub right in the heart of the Glebe at 779 Bank Street. Make sure you're following them on social media, Glebe Central Pub. You can find out all the great events that are going down at the GCP. They just had an amazing turnout for the Copa America and Canada's miracle run to the semis, but they also make sure that they are hooligans every weekend. When they got the Arsenal games on, when they got the Atletico Ottawa games on, you really feel like a part of a family at the GCP. I always say the vibes are free at the GCP, and I mean that. Every Saturday night, live music. They've got trivia. They've got all sorts of food specials and the beer of the day. So to find out what it is today, head over to Instagram, Glebe Central Pub. You can also check out their website, GlebeCentralPub.com. Like Taco Thursday today, $5 tacos. So go check it out. Check out the Glebe Central Pub and let them know that Locked On Senators sends you, but thank them from us as well, because without them, we are not where we are. So check out Glebe Central Pub, GCP. The vibes are free. 779 Bank Street. Have the smash burger. Make sure to wash it down with a cold one, as long as you're having a good time with friends at the Glebe Central Pub. All right, now let's get to this week's SensCentral Citizen. All right, we now welcome on this week's SensCentral Citizen. It is Ryan Madden. You can follow him on Twitter at Ryan Madden with 3 N's at the end. Welcome to Locked On Senators. How you doing today, man?
Feeling good. Excited to be here. It's been a long time coming and first time caller, long time listener. So it's good to be here.
That's perfect. We're happy to have you. And it's at a perfect time where things have finally slowed down. We can all catch our breath, look at the roster, the depth chart. We start organizing things. What's your overall assessment of the Sens offseason?
It was tough in the beginning, man. I think we were all waiting for a while there, and we're kind of feeling out Staios and what his moves were going to be, and then all of a sudden when the floodgates opened, it was just boom, 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 and then the Allmark signing was massive. I still catch myself off guard thinking like, holy, like we actually have Vezina winning goalie now, and it's just nice to see that. I think he's kind of filled all the holes that he can, and now we're just waiting for the final pieces to be fit in. So.
Is this the offseason you expected from Steve Staios? Like looking back on it, you're like, yeah, he said he was going to work on this. These guys were on the trading block. This is kind of how I thought the team would work out, or is it a little different than you expected, Ryan?
Well, I mean, you look at like the past like management group, right, and try to land like the big fish and the big splashy trades and the big names and all that. But now it's just nice to see that that might not be as splashy and big as what we're used to, but I think he has like a general direction on the way he wants to handle business, and I think it's kind of met my expectations, and then plus some with the addition of Allmark. So
Can't overstate how important it is to have a goalie. When's the last time you had confidence in a Sens goalie night in, night out?
Anderson?
Yeah, gotta be Andy.
Like
cup of coffee for Anders Nielsen's a sneaky pick, man. He had a good little run when he jumped in. It's unfortunate the injuries caught up to him, but yeah, it's a long list. I want to say double-digit names that we could just rapid fire off where it's like, don't remember those days too fondly. So hopefully Linus Ullmark comes in and shuts the door. Where are you going to be watching Sens hockey from? Where are we talking to you from?
I'm up in Parry Sound, the cottage right now, but I live just north of Toronto. So,
okay, nice. Are you able to get to the CTC every once in a while?
Yeah, throughout the past couple of years, I usually try to go and like make a weekend out of it. I wanted to go last year, but then like it was just too deflating, man. Like the team was out of it so early. It's just like, But yeah, no, it's been good, man. I love going, and I try to go as often as I can. So it's I try to at least get out at least once a year. So.
Yeah, you got to go to the home opener. Have you been to a home opener yet?
No, but you're
man, Ryan, you gotta go. You gotta go.
October 12th, circled.
Are tickets already on sale for now?
Oh, I don't know, but we'll be first in line.
Yeah,
so we should know then, hey?
yeah, we should know. Yeah, we should try to do another group of tickets, Ross, in section 320.
Yeah, and it's October 10th. We might want to get the date right before we start looking at tickets. October 12th, because Pillsy, we're already 2 steps ahead. We're looking at that Montreal Saturday night as a bit of a
we'll be there too.
Hey, Golden Triangle for you, Ryan. Come down from the Toronto area. You go to Ottawa for the home opener, Montreal on a Saturday night, and then head back home.
That sounds like a wicked time.
No doubt.
I might have to make the trip.
Well, that's what the preseason hype's all about is getting into that groove. And then the Sens have had such great home openers. Say what you want about the rest of the season. Hey, say what you want about it. But the home openers have been spectacular. How did you become a Sens fan initially, Ryan?
Oh, boys. I have something to admit. I was a Leafs fan when I was younger.
Okay.
Then I'd always be outside playing street hockey with my neighbor, and he'd always be wearing this like Heatley or Spezza jersey. And I was like, Ottawa. I didn't really, put much thought into it. And I remember flipping through the channels in like 2007 when they were playing Anaheim, and I was just watching Emery, man, and I was like, this is just something spectacular. Like, God rest his soul. And I was like, you know what? From that day on, I made that decision, like watching them in their playoff run, and I was like, yeah, this is it. So now, I'm a converted Sens fan. Unfortunately, I was on the wrong bandwagon, but they only play 7 games more than we do a year, right? So it can't be that bad.
That's it, exactly. It's just a couple extra weekends. That's all. Yeah. Billsy, you two were 1 goalie apart of how you guys jumped into Sens fandom.
Yeah, I was gonna say I hopped on when Dominic Hasek came to Ottawa, and you hopped on when he left. And Emery's the guy that brought you to Sens fandom. Now, were you amongst a family of Leafs fans? Like, was that a difficult decision for you? And everyone's like, Ryan, what happened out there on the driveway? You were a Leafs fan, you come back in, and now you're wearing a Danny Heatley Sens jersey. What's going on?
Oh man, my dad likes to say he's not a Leafs fan, but I still catch him watching the games. My mom and I butt heads pretty often when the Leafs and Sens play. It's a stressful time in our house, but it's all in good fun. But yeah, my parents are Leafs fans. All of their family, like our family friends, are Leafs fans as well. So it's I'm an anomaly, I guess you could say.
Well, I'm sure your dad, like most Leafs fans at this point, especially in mid to late April, like they're almost embarrassed when you open the door. It's like they're caught doing something bad when they're watching the Leafs game. They're like, "No, I said I was done, and here I am. I'm pulled back in the legends of the game, but they just haven't been able to get it done." Obviously, we don't hate to see that. What's been your interaction with Leaf fans in your life? Not forget your family. I'm sure your buddies give it to you even worse. How much you go back and forth with them about the rivalry?
Oh man, one of my good buddies from college, like whenever they play each other, he'll just send me the eye emoji. And I'm like,
Yep.
okay. I know if this game goes bad and Ottawa loses, I'm gonna hear about it. Like it's a thing. But then when we smoke the Leafs, like we usually seem to do, oh man, it's just the texting back and forth is just like it's gold. It's gold. I love giving the wheels to him.
Well, I told everyone at the start, you can follow Ryan on Twitter at Ryan Madden with 3 N's, and it doesn't take long to zoom in on the profile picture. How many times have you sent that photo of Ridley Gregg taking a slap shot into an empty net to your buddies?
Oh, dude, every time it comes up on Twitter, it has to be a retweet. Like it's just, and then you get like, like I guess I don't know how it works, but I guess I have like interactions, I guess from what I search and scroll through on Twitter, like and a lot of it is Leafs fans, and they're still so salty about it, man. Like it's just that. So I remember seeing that play and just sitting there with like the biggest grin on my face, like just the evilest grin, and I'm like, this is perfect. I mean, say what you want about the unwritten rules and all that, but at the end of the day, it's just don't let him score on an empty net. That's all it comes down to. So yeah, no, that's the best. that's a good clip. I rewatch that quite often.
And it had to be Ridley Gregg too. Probably the biggest shit-eting grin on the entire team. So for him to be the guy, like I knew at the blue line when he looked back, that might be my favorite part. How long do I have here? Like talk about premeditated. That was as much as it gets.
Yeah, it was good. That was good.
Yeah, but we needed that too because Ross and I talked about it. The Battle of Ontario had kind of slipped off, and we started calling it the Ballet of Ontario. The teams didn't really care to play hard. There was no hate. There was no animosity. They weren't close in the standings, so you didn't have that intensity. But having the Battle of Ontario being brought back is just so crucial. Even if the Sens were out of it, Leafs fans can say, oh, that's your Stanley Cup. Well, it kind of is. So we need those big games. But how are you feeling about the Senators this year stacking up against the Leafs? Like comparing the offseason, they're definitely closing the gap. When you get a Vezina winning goalie like Ullmark, I'm feeling a lot more confident about how close these two teams could be in the standings.
Yeah, I think so too. And like again, like filling out the lineup with like gritty, hardworking players. Like you don't need flashy players on every line, and you certainly don't need 4 guys taking up half your salary cap, right? So at least with us, we have a nice balance of everything. I think ideally the one that kind of hurt the most at left was Joseph. Like you can say what you want about his points and this first half compared to his last half, but like just seeing that guy in the penalty kill, man, like that was unreal.
The speed,
speed, and the Tampa 5-on-3 that he scored, like it was just, But I mean, at the same time, like adding Perron was huge, regardless of what happened last year. But yeah, I think it's good we're trending in the right direction, especially when you're playing the Leafs, right? Like, so I went to one of the games not last year before, and it was a Toronto game in Ottawa. And man, like when I know you guys know it too, but like 3/4 of the stadium is blue and white. Like there's and it's just awful. But I mean, the tickets are so much more expensive, right? Like for them. It's cheaper for them, but then season ticket holders can make some of their investment back too, right? So
Big time.
Yeah, you understand it, but it is a tough visual at
Oh,
the
yeah.
start. At least there's been some. I want to say the Sens have a winning record against Toronto, both at home and on the road. I feel like Ottawa's done pretty well. I know in the Mike Babcock era, Ottawa dominated the matchup. Like Mark Stone, Erik Karlsson just shredded, and Turris too. Turris, I feel like, has underrated numbers against the Leafs. But in this most recent iteration, I'm looking back and like, for that to be the last time they've played, and that was February 10th, like it's just building the suspense and the anticipation for when they do play. How many games, boys, could we say that Ridley Gregg, Shane Pinto, and Josh Norris all scored in the same game? Like,
Yeah, true.
That in itself, getting Pinto and Norris even scoring or playing in the same game has been enough of an issue for the Sens. So that's always nice to look back on. Hope you're enjoying our conversation with Ryan. We'll have more on the other side. But first, a word from our friends at Game Time.
Yes, Game Time. Guys, if you're looking for tickets for sports, comedy, theater, or music, you gotta head to Game Time. They take the guesswork out of buying tickets because they got killer last minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and lowest price guarantee. That's the Game Time way. You can get last-minute deals, save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for your night on the town. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. You have zone deals where you can save when you choose a section and let Game Time choose your seats. That's always a fun way to get into the ballpark. Or you can check out the all-in prices where you know how much a ticket's going to cost right away. No hidden fees or surprises when you get to checkout. That's why we love Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
To make you feel better, Ryan, about losing Joseph, I guess for me, the standpoint is that like he almost embodied the Sens issue, which was consistency and just being able to produce. And then I had a conversation the other day where this came up. Even strength goals, not this year, but last year, Linus Ullmark had one more than Matthew Joseph.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's tough.
He had one shorthanded, one on a 5-on-3 shorthanded. Remember that against Tampa? And then one on the power play, but none at 5-on-5. Now, Ullmark, the goalie, was pulled, so it was still even strength because he scored the goal, so it's 6-on-6. But that one was tough.
What a way to get Ullmark at an even strength goal. Technically, still 6-on-6. I like that.
What do you want to call it? Shorthanded?
No, it's true. It's just a funny way to approach that.
Yeah, big time. But out of the guys who are coming in, I know you've referenced Perron a little bit. Do you think that's the most impactful move versus a Jensen or a Michael Amadio?
I really, and that's the thing too. It really stung when Chicken was gone or traded for, like, on paper. Like, it took me a while to kind of like let that sink in, because to me, like, I didn't feel like that was much of a haul for the type of like high value player that he is. But to get someone to play the right side, man, like that's something that we've struggled with since how long now, right? So to at least get
there's always been a right side defenseman that's been, under the microscope. Like Cece's the obvious example there.
But even just after, like, and I listened to the Coming in Hot podcast with Jensen, and just his personality, and like I was watching highlights, like he does seem like he's going to be a good fit on the second line. And he's not a flashy guy. He's just a defensive defenseman that has speed and hands. Like that's kind of all you need. You need someone to be responsible at the end of the day in their own end, right? So it's nice seeing Amadio come back. I don't know too much about him, but from what I've heard from other people that I guess watch Vegas and that he he's definitely improved from when he was here his last time. So I think it's he's a different player and probably has a different mindset after winning a cup, right? So
Yeah. I like Amadio coming back. I think he's going to provide some versatility. He can move up and down the lineup. You saw him play with good players in Vegas, and you saw him play in the bottom six. He can play center, left wing, right wing. So I think that's a nice player to have in your lineup. Now, Ryan, how do you feel about the coaching staff? I feel like that's one that always gets glossed over with the offseason, because this is a team that had the same coach for a long time. Things didn't go their way. Now, totally revamped the coaching staff. Travis Green, as a former Leafs fan, that's got to be weird for you seeing Travis Green come in here, because you were probably a Leafs fan when he was in his heyday with the Leafs. So how do you feel about the new coaching staff? You think it's the right fit at the right time?
I think so. Again, like I'd be lying if I said I was disappointed. Sorry, I would be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed when he got hired originally, because like hearing all the rumors about Berube and all those other big name guys, but like just seeing even like videos of his training camp, just scrolling through Twitter, like guys are like on the ice, like dying or throwing up. You know what I mean? So he like demands accountability, and that's something that I feel like that we've lacked. In the last however many years that DJ was here, like he became too much of like a buddy instead of a coach, right? And also I can't blame him though, because if you're trying to hold guys accountable and cut their minutes, like he knew his time was coming to an end too, right? Yeah. So if the team's not performing, like right, he's not going to be benching guys because his job's on the line, and he knew that, right? So that was a bit of a tough situation for him to be in. Yeah, exactly. But I think we all just kind of let Travis Green do his thing and feel it out, and go from there. And that's all you can ask at the end of the day, right? So.
Yeah, and I think I had a similar approach, Ryan. Like at first you're disappointed. You're like, oh man, the Sens didn't get the big fish again. But then you start thinking and you're like, this team needed someone that's going to be hard on them, brings accountability. He's a former player, so he's going to have that respect right out of the gate. And I feel like Travis Green is one of those coaches that's hard on guys, but he's not just a dick that plays mind games, right? Like he seems like a nice guy. He seems like he flew out to see Tim Stützle in Europe. Like he's getting to know his guys, but it's that fine line of, look, I'm a player's coach, but I'm also gonna keep things hard. And I think that's where guys like Brady, Timmy, they're at the stage now where they've gone through the rebuild when the record didn't really matter, but now things matter and wins are important. So you've got a coaching staff here that's going to help them through that. And I think Travis Green could be the right guy at the right time.
Yeah. Going back to what you said, Ryan, about Nick Jensen too, like talk about a meat and potatoes type player, right? Like he's just going to put on his work boots and come in and I think play a simple game that's going to complement one of the top four defensemen. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to debate who that should be. What would your starting top four look like? Because I think there's an argument to be made for both combinations, whether you go Sanderson Zub or Sanderson with Jensen, leaving that pair with Shabbat and Zub. What would you start it with?
Well, you can't separate Sanderson and Zub.
Okay.
You can't.
Agreed.
Like they really held it down last year, and it showed that they had good chemistry. So it's got to be Shabbat and Jensen, and then whoever you want to put in for your like third line, whether that's Klevin or I think that's still kind of up in the air. But I definitely just stick with Sanderson Zoom first, Shabbat, Jensen, and then you fill in the third line with, I guess they still have a couple moves left to make, I'd imagine. But yeah, no, it's Sanderson Zub is the first line all day long, no problem.
Okay. Not my segment, so I'll save my argument for tomorrow. It's definitely a fair one that you make, but yeah, maybe I've had too long of an off season, but I've already talked myself into something else.
It's weird because like we go through the same off season every year, but now it's like, okay, it's middle of summer, nothing's going on. Like, give me Senators hockey. Like,
yeah,
I caught myself last night watching the Euro Cup. Man, I don't even like soccer.
Yeah, people convinced me to watch that Team Canada soccer game. I fell asleep in the first half, woke up at halftime, was like, oh, what's the score? Oh, down 1K, big comeback. Fell asleep about 52nd minute right after the goal.
Yeah,
so
no.
Don't want to do that again.
No, it's not the same as hockey. So
yeah, it's really not. Although I did see a big fight broke out. I don't know what it was. Colombia and was it Uruguay? There was a massive fight in the stands. So if you're looking for a hockey fix, that'll at least come close there. Final question for me here, though, Ryan. I always like asking fans about the gear that they got. So what kind of jerseys do you got in your collection?
So I have two.
Okay.
One is just the old alternate. I think it's the Sens, like just says like the one that says
Yeah,
Sens
yeah,
across
yeah.
the
Okay,
Sens jersey.
nice.
And then I bought a really old like Senegoth from like the late 90s.
It's a wild collection. I love that.
Yeah.
The red or the black Senegal?
Black.
Yeah.
Nice.
just-
Like
just
the
a
one I
black-
got back here?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think
nice.
it's a Coho jersey, so it's like it's
Yep.
old. But no name on the back. I'm trying to figure out if I want, someone's name on it from that period, which I think would make sense.
Oh, yeah. There's some
Um,
sick options.
Oh man, tons.
Chara
Tons.
comes to mind right away. Like,
Oh,
Big
that's
time.
a heartbreaker. That's a heartbreaker.
yeah, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
But okay, the two-parter question. So you only having only the black Senegoth and then the SNES jerseys that's an all-time collection. I was
All-time
not ready for
collection.
that.
You
So-
shouldn't be allowed to get any more. Like, that's perfect. Like, no,
No,
don't touch
he's
it.
got Ross. He's got to get a new 2D one. They're so sharp.
Okay,
So if you were to get a new 2D one, yes. Did I say that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand why you're in a pretzel though, because I'm like, hey, you don't need any more jerseys. While you're teeing up a question, what would your next jersey be?
Yeah, Ross, you're ruining this interview. If you were to get a new one, would you get black or white, and who you getting on the back?
Well, it's got to be black.
Okay. Yep.
I find that when I wear white, man, it doesn't matter what it is, it's getting stained.
Especially a hockey jersey. You're getting beer,
you gotta hide the
nacho
stains.
cheese, everything's going on now.
I let my buddy in Vegas borrow one of our jerseys. I was like, yeah, it's game worn. He's like, oh, cool. Like the player wear. I was like, no, I wore it. There's stains everywhere.
All right, so the black one, who's on the back?
It's weird, man. I don't know. I'm like, I'd want some like weird, like not like I'd honestly put like Tkachuk on the back, like just something
Nice.
super out there. But realistically, it'd probably have to be Sandy. Have to be.
Okay. Nice.
Just his game.
Did you
man,
like the
is unreal.
85 right away?
Yeah.
I had to warm up to that. I had to warm up to the big box letter numbers, but I like it now.
Yeah, it has to be Sanderson. Definitely.
Okay.
So what's
I
your
mean,
projection?
smart investment.
Yeah.
What's the Sandy projection for the next 1, 2, 5 years?
Well, I mean, like even scrolling through Twitter, I've seen you guys like, you reply to tweets and stuff about how like, Sanderson's never in the conversation when you're talking about top defenseman in the league. He never is. It's going to start creeping up on people's radar when,
Yep.
he puts up, 50 plus points, right? And then he's going to start being in that hopefully, this is my bold prediction. He'll be in the Norris conversation at some point before his contract's done. But the kid's just unreal, man. Like he's just an unreal guy, unreal player. Like he's just exactly what they needed when they got him in the draft, and he's proved himself already, and his contract hasn't even kicked in yet.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that was Pierre Dorian got a fleece of a deal. on
That he was willing to
Yes.
top up at that
Yeah.
amount.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to bring it in because Timmy had already signed. So they're just like, hey, like the caps, we got 8.3 for Timmy, 8.2 for Brady. You got to fall in line. We'll give you a little bit more than Norris at the time. And it's paying off like gangbusters. And I guess like 50 grand more per season than Thomas Chabot, who signed his deal when the cap was down a bit 5 years ago at this point. So huge deal. Ryan, this is how we're going to test how much faith you have in Jake Sanderson this upcoming season. What would you put the percentage odds that he makes Team USA at the Four Nations? Because that's obviously, if you make your national team, now we're talking like a different echelon. And on the back end, on the left side, one spot's already spoken for with Quinn Hughes.
Yeah.
So from there, you're looking at like what Zach Werenski off the top of my head would be an option. I'm probably losing out on guys off the top of my head, but do you think he's in that conversation as quickly as this upcoming February when that team's made?
I would like to think so. I certainly would hope so. Like even it's weird because like we all see him as a first line guy, but when you're talking about Team USA, like he's probably a second or third line guy just because they're so loaded with talent, right? I'd give it. I don't want to say I'd give it like an 80% chance that he's in that discussion, but maybe that's just me being hopeful.
I'm looking at the names now, Ryan, and at least like the top point scorers among U.S. defensemen this past season. Sanderson was 13th in points among U.S. defensemen, but there's a lot of guys I'd pick him for the team over. Like Shane Gostisbehere's ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
That's a no-brainer. John Carlson at his age, I'd probably put him ahead of him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be tight, though, obviously, when we're talking the cream of the crop, the best of the best.
Yeah.
But, man, you're looking at, Quinn Hughes with Charlie McAvoy, Werenski and Fox is probably your top four. So throw all these guys in a pile. Brady Shea, John Carlson, Luke Hughes, Brock Faber, Cam Fowler, and Jake Sanderson.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's something we can look forward to.
Yeah.
Linus Ullmark, lock with Team Sweden.
Oh, yeah.
Brady Tkachuk's got to be a lock, right, boys?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I saw somebody put a projected lineup out with Brady and Matthew Tkachuk on either side of Austin Matthews on the top line. Wow. Immediately dove into the comments, expecting people to be like, Brady on the top line? Like, what is this? No, everyone was saying Cole Caulfield over Matt Boldy on the third line. I was like, oh, sweet. I like how the narrative has shifted. So, no, that's great. Any final thoughts, Ryan? Any stories? Anything else you wanted to get in here before we wrap up? This has been a great conversation. And like we said, people for more from you can go check you out on Twitter at Ryan Madden.
Yeah, no, I don't think so, boys. Just nice to come on and have a chat, and looking forward to free agency playing out the way it's supposed to play out. And I'll have to make the trip out for the home opener and maybe even the Montreal game. So I'll have to circle that in my calendar.
Yeah, put it in there. I'm sure you will be among many who are doing that just now, because I've already got mine in marker, and it's going to be such a great weekend to start things off. We're only 90-ish days away from the start of preseason. Can't come soon enough. I'm already roped back in, and that sounds like you are too, Ryan.
Ready to be heard again.
You're darn right. Ryan, really appreciate you taking the time, and we look forward to doing this again down the road.
Sounds good, boys. Take care.
Sticks after Ryan for joining us. Really fun conversation. Again, you can follow him on Twitter, Ryan Madden, with 3 N's at the end. Pillsy, at the end of every show, we get some final thoughts from you.
Yeah, sometimes I'm prepared, sometimes I'm not, but I do have one, Ross. The Beauty League with 2 Ottawa Senators in it, Nick Jensen and Jacob Bernard-Docker. We saw JBD pull off one heck of a move to score a beautiful goal. And Ross, I hope Travis Green was watching that. If the Ottawa Senators get into a shootout, now obviously I'm not saying put them in your top 3 shootout shooters.
Not before Zub.
Well, that's where I was going to lead, Ross. Now we got to have the discussion. Should JBD be the first defenseman in the shootout line over Artem Zub? Still a no for you?
Nope. I still haven't gotten to see have we seen? Did we see one? No. Zub's never taken a shootout.
No, I don't think so. We just know he had that sick breakaway goal up against the Leafs.
Yeah, exactly. So I like that. Hey, it's good, high quality hockey for JBD, but at the end of the day, it is still summer hockey. So let's.
Hey, it was 1-on-1 with the goalie, and he showed off some nice moves. So if he can do that in the NHL, that'd be awesome. That's a topic we're gonna rehash later in the offseason, the shootout order for sure. The Sens didn't get in many shootouts last year. What, like 1 or 2?
They were undefeated in shootouts. I want to say they were the best shootout team in the National Hockey League last year.
I think they were 2-0, I feel like, because a lot of those games got decided in overtime. They didn't make it through many overtimes.
They had. I really, really want the overall stats here, and now I'm pulling it out.
Minnesota in Europe was the one of the shootout wins.
Shootout goalies. Wow. Yeah, they only allowed 1 goal on 15 shootout attempts last year.
Oh my God, that's surprising.
So 15 shootout attempts. I'm not a math guy. I don't know how many shootouts that is. Because not everyone has 3, right?
Yeah, you
it's
can't.
Not it. Otherwise, 5 times 3, 15. Oh, math guy.
Nice. I don't think that's correct though.
I do have what? That they were in 5?
That math is correct, but I don't think they were in 5 shootouts.
I think it was 4.
Oh yeah, okay, that's more than I thought.
I think it was 4. The Senators only had 5 shooters shoot in the shootout. They knew their order and they stuck with it. Claude Giroux had 4, only made 1, but it was the slap shot. wasn't it? Or no, he scored on the slap shot in the game, and then he tried it in the he won it in a shootout against Columbus.
Yeah,
remember?
he won it. Yeah, the other slap shot you're thinking of was San Jose
In a game.
Yeah, but that was
But then he tried the slap shot in a shootout again, and it didn't work. And you're like, it's cooler when it works.
Yeah, definitely.
I do have some quick final thoughts. Just we asked yesterday about what the name of the media gondola is in Ottawa, and it's a story that I honestly should have been more aware of. Obviously, it happened a long time ago. It happened almost 30 years ago now. He was an amazing sportscaster from all accounts. I know Dean Brown and he go way back, obviously, and Dean was on yesterday's show. Of course, we had pre-recorded that before we discussed it. Brian Smith was tragically murdered just leaving work. So very, very much should be honored in that sense. So by no ways, obviously, I don't think people took it that we were being disrespectful, but we were just unaware, and we wanted to say that we appreciate people for telling us the story, and it allowed us to do a little more research on it and give him the proper respect that he deserves. So I just want to get that in at the end of today's show.
Yeah, big time, definitely. Dean was actually telling us about that when we met up with him in Minnesota. So yeah, that's one we should have remembered. So our bad, but thanks for the citizens for chiming in there.
And thanks to the citizens for sticking with us all summer long. We are your team every day, 5 days a week, all through July. Pillsy, how many names did I send you on that list I'm working on for guests?
Gotta be 13 or 15. Yeah. Somewhere in the teens for sure.
And all great vibes. So you're going to have a lot more of that throughout the summer. Tomorrow, we've got the topic I mentioned with Ryan. Who should be the top 4 combinations day one of training camp? We'll have that conversation and more tomorrow. Thank you so much for liking, watching, listening, engaging with the show. It does do a lot to help us grow. For today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.